Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. I'm Becky Robinson, and I'm so glad that you decided to join us for the Daily Connection today with my friend Lisa Kohn. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Hello, I'm wonderful. How are you?
Doing well. I'm super happy it's Friday, and it's so great to be with you. If you were on with us yesterday, I mentioned to everyone that I wouldn't be on today, but then I changed my mind because I love you all so much, and I love Lisa, and I knew I needed to hear from her today. So I rearranged my calendar so I could be with all of you, and I'm really grateful to be here. So let's start the day the way that we always do, with the focus on gratitude, and we would love to hear from you in the chat. What are you grateful for? Please remember to use the drop-down menu to select all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your answer. And we would love to hear, where you're calling in from today, what you're grateful for. And Lisa, why don't you tell us, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, okay, I'll go first. What am I grateful for so far today? Well, that it's Friday. Um, kids, that, sorry, you're gonna hit me. I found out my brother may be sick today, so we're just being real
Oh,
honest.
no.
But I will say that my dad miraculously is recovering, was diagnosed and is, I believe, recovering, and that most of my family is well, and that I can connect with people, and I have a lot of people and love in my life, and so I'm just gonna focus on that right now. Sorry to be so scummy, but I literally, my brother may be sick, and so I am.
Yeah, that is rough. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
it's anyway. But
So I'll share
let's
some
be
of
real.
yeah, for sure. So I'm going to share some of the gratitudes from the people on the call. So Kitty is grateful that it's Friday, and Joanna is grateful for sun and warm temperatures. And Carol is grateful that Michigan stay at home is working and you can get garden supplies. Huh. I didn't know that we could, but glad to hear that. I'm in Michigan too. Alejandra is grateful for being here. Nina is grateful for insight meditation practice that holds her through life. And Janae, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Janae. If I'm not, can you correct me so I can say it correctly on Monday? So grateful for friends who have picked things up for me so I don't have to go out. Grateful that my brother, who had a stroke 3 weeks ago, got to go home, and grateful for brand new directives. So glad to hear from all of you. Glad to be here. Welcome, Erica. Thanks for saying hi. She's grateful for life lessons. Rob is grateful in Delaware for rain and is finding the gloomy weather to be comforting. And Madalena is saying, sending you love and courage at this time. So hopefully you're sending it to all of us. Maybe you're sending it to Lisa. But we're so glad. We're so glad that you're with us. And today's topic is one that's really important. And before we dive in, I do want to introduce you to Lisa if you've never met her. Lisa's based in the Philadelphia area, right? Ish.
Ish.
And I always kind of forget. Lisa and I have not had the chance to meet in person yet. We very nearly did. She had a book signing in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is up the road from me, when her book, To the Moon and Back, came out. And I regret so much that I didn't make it. I can't remember what was going on that day, but so we still have not yet met in person. Just a quick note about that. Lisa's book, To the Moon and Back, is so beautiful and wonderful and inspiring. I read it in an early version prior to its publication, maybe a few years before. And just, if I can indulge for a minute, I printed it out at our local copy shop, and I had a stack of papers, and I can still remember where I was when I read it and how I could not put it down. Lisa has gone through so many things in her life, they've all brought her to where she is today and given her this depth of compassion and empathy. So I hope that you'll buy her book. It would be a great read for the weekend. And a couple of other things about Lisa. She's in a leadership consultancy and coaching practice called Chatsworth Consulting. So we'll put the links in for Lisa later, but I feel like I'm going to make you cry.
You did. You did. Can't see because we're on Zoom, but you did. Thank you.
Aw, well,
Very
all kinds of love. And
all kinds of love.
yes, so let's dive in. We are going to be talking about self-love today and loving our worst selves. And why don't we start with, what do you mean by worst self? And how can we possibly understand our worst selves, work with our worst selves, and love our worst selves? And I just want to admit, in case it will help you all feel, like I'm a regular person, that my worst self came out quite a few times this week already. And so when you say it, I immediately resonate like, oh, it's my worst self. It's the one that called someone else a name. It's my worst self. It's the one who became defensive when someone had something to share with me. So my worst self is hugely defensive. If you knew me, you would know that. So let's talk about that, Lisa.
The worst self, and I have been working with this concept for a long time. I have a lot of thoughts and beliefs about it, but it's really that part of me, I'll talk about me, that part of me that I can't stand, right? Or not that I can't stand, but that's reactive. That's often my best self exponentially pushing forward in whatever way that is, just trying to control a situation or handle a situation. It's that I have a client who used to refer to it as the evil twin, right? If I'm really, really strong and directive, it's the part that screams at people or uses, not a nice word, right? If I'm really, really sweet and accommodating, it's the part that just gives in no matter beyond belief. For me, it is a very triggered fight or flight response, right? That it's either automatically blames myself beyond belief in my head. I got a lot of nasty old thoughts in my head, right? From where I come from, and then just pushes back to protect beyond belief, whatever that was. But it's that part of us that gets triggered, our reactive tendencies, the fight, flight, or freeze, that thing that, as I keep saying to clients, all my leadership consulting clients, all of our triggers are right here, right now, and we just can't control our immediate jerk reactions at times. It's that part, the part where you go like, I can't believe, or thank God I fought them. That's the worst self.
Well, so how can we understand our worst self more, or work with it? Or as you said, how can we love that darker evil twin inside of us?
Thank you. The same thing. So if those of you can't see me, it's that hand on the heart. So what I've learned over the years, right? In my own recovery and working with a lot of clients and the type of work I do, is that worst self is generally something that we learn, behaviors that we learned, or to protect ourselves when we were young. Whether or not, I always say to clients, these behaviors may have actually saved your life. And I have a lot of clients who literally what they do as their worst self saved them, or at least we think we did. So it's these behaviors that are watching the world, looking for danger, right? We've evolved as human beings to always be looking for danger, to be looking for the tiger behind the bushes kind of thing. So looking for danger, and that jump in to protect us. So the first start of understanding, working with, loving is having that compassion, that part of me that, when my husband said something and reacted, my partner said something and reacted in this certain way, and I jumped on him, it's because I thought I needed protecting, whether or not I did, right? So I've learned to, over the years, and I've taught a lot of clients to like thank that worst self for wanting to keep me safe. And then reminding that worst self that I'm not in as much danger. Like, yes, now the world is completely uncertain. And in a lot of ways, we are in a dangerous situation, but most of us are not in immediate danger, right? Mm-hmm. So thank you for stepping in to save me. I'm actually okay. Put my hand on my heart, which is very calming. Take a deep breath and find some way to go forward with what I call my best self, right? So if my worst self comes from fear, my best self comes from love. And I actually personally today I'm a little triggered and I keep going, love with all my heart, love with all my heart, love with all my heart, which just brings me back to that grounded space of loving even my reactive self, because the more you push against it, the bigger it gets. So it's that kind of sense of, it doesn't give me permission to be reactive, but self-compassion and understanding, of course I'm reactive, and of course you're reactive, and of course your triggers trigger my triggers, and we're all like bonkers right now. Okay, let's try again and be nice and smile and offer compassion.
So I'm going to go off script for a minute, Lisa, if that's okay.
Oh, man, I always go off
script. So you mentioned that you're triggered today. You have a lot of worries and concerns. And so on a day when we are feeling like that worst self is just below the surface, what type of self-care approaches do you recommend? So if I were you today, and I wanted to care for myself in the best possible way, this call is until 12:30. What would I do at 12:30 to shift how I'm showing up or care for myself well?
I have a lot of tools, no surprise. And the first thing I try and do, and what I offer other clients, is acknowledge that I'm triggered, that my worst self might be there. And with the safe people around me say, oh, by the way, not my best self today, not okay, right? Which gives me a little bit more grace for messing up, right? A little more buffer for when I come out badly and be like, oh, there I did. Because my tapes are very self-condemnation. So if I act in my worst way and then I blame and criticize myself for acting my worst way, I'm all the way down the path. So it's acknowledging it to me, acknowledging it to whomever I'm talking with, this huge audience. For me, it's meditation, sitting still, putting my hand on my heart. For me, it is, right, I'm going to be honest here, right? I actively say positive things to myself, right? I'm like, I love you, sweetheart. It's okay. You're okay. Like I tell myself the things I maybe need to hear to calm myself down. I may choose to step into work and do something that makes me feel productive, but that's one of my addictions, if you will, being overly productive and overly perfectionistic. I may let myself curl up on the couch for a half an hour and just chill and read a book. I make a lot of cups of tea. I unfortunately have one child at home, and that poor kid, he turned 18 this week, and I'm like, give me some sugar. Like I'll go in and get a hug. I'll give myself a hug, literally, right? Whatever I need to like soothe. My old self would be push through it, keep going, make it happen. I am such a recovering perfectionist. And I may have said this to you before, Becky, that my brother once said to me, I even try to do not perfectly. It's true. I do.
What does that exactly look like?
That's like, am I giving myself a lot of compassion for messing up? Am I, really being evolved about this? It's like this whole mind game of, let's just say I was taught really well to be really perfect and over responsible. So it's like, I can't let myself mess up. I can't even let myself mess up at not being perfect. I have to do that really, really well. Like I can't stumble. So it's just a huge dose of self-compassion for when I stumble, right? It's a lot of self-care. I did my yoga practice this morning. I'm talking to my best friend later today. Like all those things that just soothe me. Yeah, soothe me.
So if you are on today's call and you have some self-soothing activities or approaches, I would love to hear those in the chat as well. And thank you, Lisa, for giving us a glimpse into how you do it. I don't know about any of you, but I feel like what's working in terms of coping through this crisis changes every week. A couple of weeks ago, if you had asked me, I would have bragged and shown you my daily routine, my morning routine and my nighttime routine. And I think it lasted for about a week. And then I thought, you know what? It's not important for me to be either in the shower or exercising 15 minutes after I wake up. That's too much. I can't do that.
Yeah, my mornings have gotten really slow, and I'm lucky, right? I'm a consultant and a coach, and I have a lot of flexibility, and I have a lot of space in the morning. I have the 5 people I text good morning to because they need a hug. I have the different, personal care things or meditation things I do. I have all these things I do to just connect and ground and touch and get to work a little late, which I can some days, but I'm lucky, yeah.
Sure. So Jay says, go for a walk, run, or bike ride, reading for enjoyment, watching a YouTube video on a favorite non-work related topic, writing. And Joanne says sometimes she lets herself be bored and not do anything.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all really good. Erica says reading, and you're addicted to leadership books. Erica, you should email me. We have lots of leadership books in our office. I'd be happy to send some. And then she said she has some recommendations from this daily connection that are on her docket to read. Janae says, go outside for a walk to the gas station and get coffee, or to the post office and mail all the cards that she wrote to people she cares about. And John is doing his best to connect with 2 to 5 people every day. Wow.
Yeah.
Doing nothing.
I love that, doing nothing. Wow. Many years ago, I like to say my first good therapist once said to me, sometimes it's okay to eat a pint of ice cream.
Ooh, yeah.
There you go. I give that to you, right? I give that to you. And the other thing I share a lot is if you feel guilty doing something, it's probably a good thing for yourself.
Interesting.
Right. And so that ability to stop, for those of us who run ourselves and rule ourselves really hard, Becky, right? That ability to just have this huge grace and space for, I used to hate being human, right? For my humanity and my foibles and my triggers and my worst self and my bad reactions. And I'm a coach. I'm supposed to be evolved and never get like this. So let it all go. I've been doing this for decades. I know better. Let that all go. I can teach you. Let that all go.
That's
Love that.
awesome. You know, I read this piece yesterday in The Atlantic about how the fact that we're all at home and we perceive each other to have unlimited time means it's really difficult for people to get out of things that they would typically have an excuse for before. And I thought about that last night when I got a text from this group of work colleagues. There's a 7 o'clock Thursday night happy hour that I've been going to for a few weeks. And at first I thought, well, this is kind of like an obligation. We've been doing this every week and getting together. And I was exhausted. And what I wanted to do was get in the bubble bath and read a book. But yet I felt guilty, like I should show up. So I think sometimes it's about giving ourselves permission to say no, even if there are expectations that we should show up.
Yeah. Even if we have expectations that we should show up and other people have expectations show up, and who
Mm-hmm.
am I to say, I actually don't want to talk to anybody right now. I just want to read a book in the bubble bath. Yeah. Then go
Mm-hmm.
do it. Then go do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that will give you that buffer space so that when something hits you, your worst self is less likely to come out as strong. Anything that gives us that space, that buffer, that pause, that care, that fills up our own tank. If I can fill my own tank up, then, put your own oxygen mask on first, right? Then I'm less likely to come at you or to be able to be like, wow, did I just come at you? Oh my gosh. Sorry. Yeah.
For sure. And Janae said, there's a reason why our heads go up and down and back and forth. It's so we can say yes or so we can say no. I love that. And I'm not always so good at saying no. So, Lisa, one of the things I'm amazed by is the way that you can identify those gifts in our worst self, or in our mistakes or our foibles or the pain that we've gone through in our lives. Let's talk for a few minutes about how we can uncover the gifts in those things that we might see as negative or weaknesses.
It's a good question. And it took me a long time to get there because, of course, I hated them all for a while and fought them. I think it started from the realization that the more I pushed it, the more I fought it, the stronger it became, right? It's just a physics thing. Like the more you resist, the more it persists. But when I let go and when I accept, everything eases. And I mean, even trying to figure out how to explain this, right? I guess so. It's like, it was really an ability to step back and say, okay, so these things I don't like, they served a purpose. And acknowledging that, right? And thanking that. And I do believe, again, some people it absolutely saved their lives, and some people it's just whatever you experience and how you interpret it or misinterpret it and the stories you made up and what you learned to do, right? So it served a purpose, and in many ways it still serves a purpose, right? Anger is not a bad emotion. Anger is protecting us. Fear is not a bad emotion. We just have too much of it, right? All of that is reading the world and making sure that we're safe and trying to take care of us. So I think it's just and I was going to say, it's not like it's great to get mad, but actually for someone like me who never got mad, there are times when I have just been really angry and exploded. And for me, that actually was a gift because I learned to stand up and take my space, right? So it's just about not forgiving. And it's, in my mind, it's never okay to intentionally hurt someone. And even to unintentionally hurt someone, I need to own it and apologize for it and figure that all out. I'm not saying that, but to realize that when I hate myself for how I've acted, I'm less able to stop that negative behavior. And when I can say, of course I did that, I wish I hadn't done that, here's what I need to do to make up for that. And here's how actually I was thinking I was doing something okay. It just it eases my triggeredness so that I can show up better, right? And sometimes really in that negative or in that worse stuff, there is positive. I do firmly believe, I know for me that some of this stuff absolutely saved my life, and it still thinks it is. Again, it's that sense of I don't have to go there. I can go there if I need to, but I don't have to go there. Does that?
Yeah, it helps. And, as I'm listening to you, Lisa, since most of the people on the call never met you before, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm wondering if there's any part of your story that you could share now to give some context to, how you're showing up today?
I'll give you my line, right? So the way I describe my childhood is this: the best seats I ever had at Madison Square Garden were at my mother's wedding. And if you're old enough to know what that means, there was a cult, a religious cult in this, it's still around, but popular in the 70s and 80s, the Unification Church, the Moonies, which had these huge mass weddings. Someone actually posted a picture of it on Facebook this week. My mom was married in Madison Square Garden in 1982 with 2,075 other couples. I was a member of the Unification Church. It was my life. He was my Messiah. I was best friends with his kids. So that's one hand. So I grew up in a cult, which messes with you. And on the other side with my dad, the best cocaine I ever had was from my father's friend, the judge. And last time I said that, someone said, not really a judge. And I said, yes, really a judge of a small town in New Jersey. And as my high school boyfriend likes to say, he did have the best cocaine. So I had the religious cult and what that does to you on one hand, and sex, drugs, and squalor in New York City's East Village with my dad. And so it messes with you. I left the church when I was about somewhere between 18 and 21, went on a series of very self-destructive ways until at the age of 24, I crawled into Al-Anon, engaged with someone who drank a heck of a lot, saying, tell me he's an alcoholic. There's no way I would ever be with an alcoholic, to discover that there was, and I had a lot of damage, and my childhood was weird, and it hurt me, and there was a lot of recovery. So I've had decades of healing and looking for tools to, again, change those crazy things I learned in order to survive. Quick synopsis of the.
Thank you for sharing. And you can read more about all that Lisa went through, and then also how she got out of it in her book, To the Moon and Back. So if you're intrigued, then you definitely want to put her book on your list for the weekend. And I still have it on my Kindle. So I want to go back to it too. So what do we want to talk about next? We have about 9 more minutes together. Lisa, what did you bring today that you haven't had a chance to share yet?
Well, that's a very good question. Wow. I'm not often at a loss of words, but woo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes the prepared questions kind of get answered, and then I'm not sure how to ask them. So that's what I came up with.
Well, that's cool. I guess, okay, so, well, what I'll share is, it's a weird time. It's a weird time, right? It's a weird time. And for me, I have to believe that we will come out of this somehow better as a community, as a world. But when my memoir came out, and I'm able to be so authentic and transparent in the work I do with my corporate clients and everyone, there's 3 messages I'm trying to share. And the first is not necessarily related to this, but it is that extremist situations exist. They're extremely prevalent. They're extremely dangerous. There's nothing as intoxicating as knowing you have the truth. And there's a lot of ways people are caught in things, and will be more caught in things coming out of this. I'm pretty sure, right? Because we're looking for certainty, purpose, and community, and an answer right now. But the other 2 messages that I share are, for anyone who feels hopeless or damaged beyond repair, there is hope, and you're not damaged. And, you know, my story is unique. Only my brother has pretty much the same story, but the themes are universal. And unfortunately, as I go and I speak about my book and I speak about my past, people who haven't grown up in a cult and didn't have the other experience identify with a lot of what it did, how I was affected by it, right? And I realized that until very recently, I still thought I was damaged, and I'm not. I have damage. I'm not damaged. There's a big difference. And I think that a lot of people are walking around feeling damaged, and it's getting even more triggered now, right? All those anxieties and fears and self-loathing and all that stuff that we picked up for whatever reason. So there is hope. Reach out, find someone. And then the third, which ties into that, is, you know, from my work as a coach and from my own experience, I believe as a species, at least in our society, we're all way too hard on ourselves, self-critical, self-judging, self-lambasting. We, you know, have to go to a happy hour because we said we would. And we just need, again, that huge dose of self-love and self-compassion. I need to love myself really, really, really. And then I have a lot to give to the world. My God is love. I believe I'm here to love. I love my clients. My mentor coach said to me years ago, your only job is to love your clients. Some of my clients know that. Some of them I won't say that to, but in appropriate ways, I do. Like that's what I have to give. And I believe that it all starts with especially anyone that's showing up here, is probably trying to help other people. And if I can't love myself, I can't help you. And if I can teach, if I can do it, then you can do it. And if we all just loved ourselves a little bit more, even this might be a little bit easier. So
I love that.
Woo-woo, but I believe it fully. Yeah.
I love that. So there are a couple of questions that have come in while you were chatting, and
Cool.
people are interested in this journey to writing a book. So Janae said she sees that your book was published in 2018. How long did it take you to write it? When did you start it? And I know that it was a really long journey for you, Lisa, to get your book in the world, because did we meet? Was it in 2012 that we met?
Yeah,
So,
I will
yes.
make a long story short, but I crawl into Al-Anon, and when you tell your story in front of this huge 100 people and all their jaws drop and they go, wow, there's something there. And everyone said, you should write a book. I started writing this probably about 20 years ago. I started writing it when I was trying to get pregnant with my second child, who just turned 18 this week. It was at the beginning a half memoir, half self-help, because I'm a coach and I'm going to help you. That was for a very long time. I got a lot of amazing rejections, basically being told that I'm not famous enough to write a hybrid book. Where will they put you in Barnes and Noble? I got an agent in around 2009, 10, who said, write the memoir and I'll represent you. Wrote the memoir. She couldn't take me on. And then it took until 2017 when I signed with my publisher. So it took a really long time. Not everybody does. My partner would call me LK Rowling, right? Because I would get rejected and get up and do it again, and get rejected and get up and do it again. But yeah, I wanted to put out a message. So it's a long story. If you want to talk about it more, contact me directly and I'll give you anything I learned along the way.
Excuse me, sorry. I don't have any water up here today. So, Lisa, what's your preferred email if someone wants to reach out?
So the two emails, if you want to talk about the book, I suppose the best one is lisa@lisakohnwrites.com, and Kohn is Kohn as in Nancy, and writes as in writing. And then my consulting firm is chatsworthconsulting.com. And so that's lkohn@chatsworthconsulting.com. But if you just Google me, you'll find lots of ways to reach me, because if you Google my brother, I'm still on the first page, because cults are hot, and I got a lot of publicity when the book came out. Thank you, Kelly.
Lisa did this amazing job on was it the Today Show that you were on?
It was a Megyn Kelly show, back when there was a Megyn Kelly show, yeah. Exactly.
And that was such a great clip. If you're curious about Lisa, go find it and watch it. We have time, right? Really quick, one last question that I want to take from Greg. He wants to know what we can learn from today that we can use to build a better world tomorrow. That's a really big question.
That's a really big question. I mean, I could answer that. This is just my perspective. Obviously, all this is on so many levels, right? One being that, what do you know? Those people who are most affected right now are the people who are generally most affected in our societies. The disenfranchised, the people without money, the people, and the poor, the people of communities of color. So I don't know how it's going to shift, but I pray that we get a look at this and say something has to shift. I think that, again, I can go into fear, or I can go into love. And even when I go into fear, the more I can come from love, if every single person out here came from love a little bit more, maybe we would be able to shift the world a little bit more, right? And if we have perspective, again, for the people who are suffering more than we are, and, just anything we can do to shift them. There's so much hate and blame and all that in the world. What can I do? One of the things I do is my Zoom is used by my older kid every night and every weekend to plan political actions. So that's one of the things I'm doing. But what can I personally do to help shift the world, shift perspectives, add love, help people who are more disenfranchised than me? What's the message I can share, and how can I spread it? I guess that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't know if that's, I have to believe that we will learn something and find a way to unite to a better world.
Yeah, I love that. And Erica says she loves that too. So really quickly, a few housekeeping items. Next week is our final week of the daily connections. And then the week after next, we shift to the weekly connection. And I discovered in the chat during this event that we don't actually have a guest on Monday. So what I'm going to propose is that Monday we do what we did I think we did it one day last week where we had a Zoom meeting instead of a Zoom webinar, and we all got face-to-face and we all had some conversation. So bring your best topics. We'll have a free-for-all. We'll be on camera together, have a Zoom meeting, reconnect with one another. And then next week we do have 4 special guests, and I'll give you a quick rundown. On Tuesday, we're going to be with Bonnie Marcus for a special hour-long webinar on how to stay marketable in these difficult times. And that is one that requires registration, so I hope you'll sign up and attend that one with us. On Wednesday, we have Bob Teedy. Bob runs the blog Leading with Questions, and he's going to talk a lot about how we can use questions to connect more effectively, and some leadership principles during a crisis. On Thursday next week, we have Susan Fowler, and Susan Fowler is an expert on motivation science, and she's going to talk to us about what motivation has to do with coping with COVID-19, and that's everything. I love Susan, and I know that you will too. I actually love all these people, so if I didn't say it, it goes without saying, I love them all. And then Friday, we're going to wrap up the Daily Connection series with Karen Hurt and David Dye, who are going to talk with us about courageous cultures and building teams of micro-innovators, problem solvers, and customer advocates. And if you haven't met David and Karen, they are tremendous people. And then the first week of May, we will be shifting to the weekly connection, but there will be some weeks that have more than one event because we do have some previously scheduled hour-long webinars coming up in the spring and summer. So it's going to be a great week next week, and it's going to start on Monday with some FaceTime for all of us. So I hope you'll come, invite your friends. Have a great weekend and take care of yourself. Lisa, how about one tip? I'll let you have the final word. What can we do to go out and love ourselves, both our best selves and our worst selves this weekend?
So the first thing I'm going to say is, truly, I love connecting. So if anybody wants to connect with me, please do. I'm like, oh, I get all excited. Find the physical, right? I always say to my clients, find the totem, right? Find the visual, find the mantra, find what you need to say to yourself, find what you need to do, like my hand on my heart and what I say to myself. Find what you're going to do that's going to bring you back to the core of love and love for yourself so that you can radiate it out. I don't think there's one answer. Like, we all need to find whatever it is that fits us. But, oh, and the last thing is, it's okay to do it, right? Who cares if it's woohoo? Who cares if people think you're being selfish? Who cares all that junk in your head about why you shouldn't? If it looks silly or who am I? Who am I? I guarantee you're helping the world when you love yourself first. This I truly, truly, truly believe and know. So that's all I got.